the frenzy has begun. The legal tampering period, Sarah, for NFL free agency. We're 8 minutes in right now, live stream. So good to be with you guys on this free agency week. This new league year begins, of course, later on this week on the 12th, but lots will come between now and then. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. It is the 10th of March. It's a Monday. And it's 8 minutes into this legal tampering period. By the way, just operationally right now, Twitter is down. Okay. So we can't even go live on Twitter right now. We are exclusively a YouTube live stream at this moment. What we'll do, Sarah, and just kind of speaking out loud here on the fly because we don't know what's happening, in the upper right-hand corner of our stream, we have the option to go live on X when the option is given to us. So we'll try our best to refresh that. For those of you who are in the YouTube space, you're probably not going to be bothered by this at all because you're just always with us in YouTube. But we obviously have a pretty hefty audience in the Twitter space as well. We hope to get that up and running. It is completely out of our control over the course of the next hour plus. So
not to mention that all the news comes out on Twitter like immediately, and this is the time that it's all going to be coming out. So yeah, hopefully it gets back up soon. Woo.
Hey, this is strange. You're right, because I got TweetDeck over here and I'm refreshing it. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat are refreshing it for your own purposes, but the reality is it's completely out of our control. And so good news is there's plenty to discuss because this weekend was insane, Sarah, particularly given activity in and around the AFC North. And as you discussed over the weekend in a short format on our channel, the Ravens' biggest priority got done. And I think that's probably where things begin today. Ronnie Stanley ain't going anywhere.
Ronnie Stanley isn't going anywhere. Ronnie Stanley is back. In fact, there was a lot of movement in the AFC North over the weekend. And Bobby, I thought the way we could kind of dissect it is talk about which moves we think were the biggest over the weekend. Which one was the best for each team inside the AFC North? Because these teams know that this is one of the toughest divisions in football. Nobody wants to get stuck behind from the others. You got some of the best organizations in terms of culture with Steelers and Ravens. You've got places with good quarterback play with Lamar and Joe Burrow. So these guys are constantly competing. And so we've got the Ronnie Stanley news, which was massive. Last time we talked, we were like, I don't know. It's getting close to the deadline. Still a couple days. Might be getting antsy. Well, on Saturday evening, they announced it, a 3-year extension for $20 million per year. Bobby, I promise you we'll get into this more. That was a hometown discount. Fans ask for it all the time. Players don't need to give it to any time. They just don't need to do it. They're putting their bodies on the line. That is a hometown discount. Browns later extend out of nowhere. Pass rusher Myles Garrett, he gets a 4-year extension for $40 million per year. $123.5 million guaranteed money. That comes out of nowhere because the last time we talked, he said he was prepared to sit out games if he doesn't get traded. So we'll get into that. And then the big news yesterday, the Steelers trade for wide receiver DK Metcalf. Bobby, when I see an AFC North wide receiver, I know him. And DK Metcalf is one of them, but it's the Steelers who bring him in. They give up a second rounder for Metcalf, 5-year deal worth exactly what he asked for, $30 million per year. So Bobby, my question to you, which team made the best move for their future over the weekend?
Well, you know, it's funny. Two of the three really should be categorized as blockbuster. And that's not what the Ravens did. It wasn't blockbuster, So it's easy to say like, oh, blockbuster is the move. Like that's what this question, how it should be answered. But we know what the left tackle position means in this game. We know what Ronnie Stanley has meant to Lamar Jackson, and we know what the Ravens are without Lamar because we've seen it. You go back to that 21 and 22 seasons in the second half of those years. The Ravens were unrecognizable without 8 under center. And so to me, this is actually pretty easy. One player in Myles Garrett has not proven, as great and as iconic game wrecker as he has been and a future Hall of Famer, one player has not proven to be the difference in Cleveland.
Right.
And DK at this moment doesn't have a quarterback throwing to him. So to me, this answer is easy. I think your audience got it. I'll go with the Ravens. I think it's not a sexy blockbuster move, but it was their biggest priority the offseason. They needed to do this. Ronnie has built himself back up. They now have built their offensive line to be bookended by Ronnie and the second-year player in Roger Rosengarten. And ultimately, without Lamar, who are you? And I think when it comes to the protection of their two-time MVP, this is just, you can't put a price tag. Well, they put a price tag on it, but the importance of it knows no bounds. How about you?
You know what? I thought that maybe because you referenced my audience, I put this poll out on Twitter, and I thought, well, mostly Ravens fans follow me, so of course Ravens fans picked the Ravens at 61.7%, and then they gave the Steelers at 26.5%. That's about 2,500 votes when I checked on it earlier this morning. And so I didn't know if they were being biased, but you're right there with them. I mean, Ronnie Stanley allowed 1 sack this last season in 298 snaps. And you, to your point, you don't mess around with your franchise quarterback. You keep him upright at all costs. This was, we talked about it, a must-need move because the alternatives was going to be a huge drop-off. Bobby, already this morning, we're hearing about the left tackle market where dudes that aren't even close to Ronnie Stanley's play level last year are getting his same amount. I've heard from many people, Jeff Zrebeck tweeted it yesterday, if Ronnie wanted to, he could have hit the market today and easily gotten 25 million per year. And we're about to talk about Myles and Metcalf, and all of them are saying they prioritize winning. I want a championship. It was only Stanley who stood by his words. This is what he told Hall of Fame tackle Jonathan Ogden a couple months ago, courtesy of Ravens Productions.
Lamar's been great. I just feel like I'm having fun out there when I'm playing with him. And then you add Derrick Henry to the mix, and I'll always choose winning over money, any day. And I know playing with A, you always have a chance.
And that's what he did. He didn't even test the market. I will always prioritize winning over money. Bobby, he could have gotten more. He could be millions and millions of dollars richer by the end of today. But he prioritized winning over money. Now, do you have anything else you want to say on that?
I just know there's multiple teams waking up with a Monday hangover, so to speak, today, like a New England that wanted Ronnie.
Yeah.
New England did. There was a lot of smoke out there about Kansas City, but I think I love that you just pulled that receipt right there, because doesn't it give this fan base an opportunity, maybe a certain percentage of the fan base that wrote this guy off or wanted to part ways with him or just got overly frustrated about the lack of availability. And hey, deservedly so, right? It was a tough few years for Ronnie working his way back from that ankle. But the market, which he didn't even have a chance to test, clearly shows you just how proven not only Ronnie is in the minds of the decision makers from around the league, but how coveted he would have been had he hit the market. And so I think while it might be the next couple days a little underwhelming compared to the other teams with big cash and big spendings and everything that we know has already taken place, this might just be just as impactful for the current future, the imminent future of the Ravens and Lamar's health.
Yeah, so I would agree. I mean, this move was huge for the Ravens. I don't think you can overstate that. Obviously, everybody's hoping he stays healthy. But that's with any player. So while I think this was huge for the Ravens, and I think it was big for the Browns to re-sign Myles Garrett, I would say the Metcalf, that was the Metcalf signing. Let me see if I can get this in there. That was maybe, I'll put it this way. I think it was the Steelers upgraded their team the most over the weekend. They upgraded their team the most, but they needed to, right? They were They're probably going into the season ranked as the third best team in the AFC North. They don't have a quarterback under center. And they needed to do something to try to leapfrog the other teams in the division. So the Ravens, I think, maintained a status quo. But that status quo is an elite playoff team. Okay? So that's what their move with Ronnie did. It said, we're not taking a step back. We are going to continue to be a high-powered offense because, as we know, the Ravens ranked number 1 in many offensive categories last season. So they maintain their status quo, and so that's huge for them. But it's the Steelers that had the biggest upgrade over the weekend. And it comes in the form of DK Metcalf for a $150 million contract over 5 years. It is the largest deal in the Steelers franchise history. Steelers and Ravens usually do business very similar. This kind of a deal is out of character for both the Ravens and Steelers. They've both had their trades over their years, but a franchise history contract to a guy that hadn't been on your team, that's new for them. But Bobby, here's what's big about this for them is now you've got DK Metcalf, which is a carrot as they are trying to solidify their quarterback position, which will only help them to also try to upgrade over last season. And so the news this morning we're hearing, as you pointed out here, there's actually a lot of news swirling about which quarterbacks they're actually targeting. But when you have DK Metcalf there, then it helps lure some of the free agent guys that are out there. So Adam Schefter reports this morning that the Steelers, yes, are continuing to talk to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Okay, but Justin Fields reportedly is slow walking the Steelers because they benched him last year. So he's like, I kind of want to see what's out there. I'm only a few hours away. I might as well take a peek at what else the market could offer.
He's
and
talking
so
to
that
the
leaves
Jets in the meantime.
What's that?
He's been talking to the Jets in the meantime while that process.
Well, he's not allowed. Well, he wasn't allowed to until a few minutes ago, right? But that's what he was waiting to do.
The Jets are showing interest in him. Yes.
Right. To get an official offer, all that kind of stuff, he needed to get to noon today. So Steelers are like, okay, well, clearly you want to go dance with other partners. So now we're going to go out and try to dance. And so according to Adam Schefter, Aaron Rodgers has emerged as a real quarterback option in Pittsburgh. So that's why I say it's the Steelers who upgraded the most, but they needed to because they were far below the Ravens and other teams in the AFC.
Yeah, now DK is seen as the best recruiting pitch that's out there right now which is what you're getting at among the quarterback needy teams. To me, the best landing spot right now for the quarterbacks that are looking for jobs is Pittsburgh. It's Sam Darnold, right? It's Russ, it's Justin, it's Aaron, right? These quarterbacks that are right now in limbo and maybe won't be for, I mean, in the next couple hours, they might not be any longer. But to me, this is the most attractive option that's out there right now. And now the question is, moving forward, are they going to keep Pickens on this team? Because Pickens and Metcalf, heck of a duo, but does that duo function together? I don't know. We'll have to see. But right now, if you're Aaron Rodgers, for example, and you're any of these free agent quarterbacks, and you're looking at those two, with Freiermuth as a tight end, and you're going to upgrade, I'm sure, at maybe draft through the running back to replace Najee Harris, and obviously we know what their defense is about. It's the most attractive option out there.
Well, if you're George Pickens, you are under contract for one more year, but what the Steelers just did to him is what the Ravens did to Patrick Queen, which is we drafted you, Patrick Queen. We've seen you, Patrick Queen. You're a 1 year out from a contract extension, Patrick Queen, but we traded for your replacement and we're going to give him the big payday instead of you. But you had Roquan and Patrick Queen for a year, and they were the best duo. So George Pickens has one more year, but that was his contract extension. Probably wouldn't have gotten that much, and he would have had to play better. But like they're saying, hey, you've been great, but we're going to even get even better. Okay.
Sure.
But let's throw this in here. So we've got Aaron Rodgers, a real possibility now. Justin Fields sounds like the Steelers were trying to get that done, but he wanted to see what the market had. Russell Wilson still an option. But I'll throw this in there also. Diana Rossini reported earlier that they're also going to make an offer to Sam Darnold. Now, listen, we know the Seattle Seahawks traded Geno Smith to the Raiders over the weekend. And so everybody's saying you don't do that unless you have your quarterback position locked up. You don't just trade away Geno when you guys, were a playoff team. And so everybody's saying, no. Sam Darnold is locked in at Seattle, but can't do anything until today. So of those 4 options, Bobby, I would say Sam Darnold's the best. And if I were Sam Darnold, I'd probably want to go to the Steelers with those receivers. But assuming that he stays with the Steelers, from a Ravens perspective, you're Eric DeCosta. Who's the worst option as a Raven between Fields, Rodgers, and Russell Wilson?
Fields, Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. Who you don't want?
Yes, who you don't want as a Ravens GM. Meaning, I hope they pick the guy that we would have the best chance of success against.
Yeah, I'd probably go. I'm not going to surprise our audience on this one. I still think Aaron has more left in the tank. I do. I know he's going to be 42 at the start of the season, but I'll go with Rodgers. We've seen what Russ looks like. We saw it in the postseason. I still think that there's some untapped potential, like I mentioned last week with Fields. I think other teams are showing you that as well, given the interest that he's garnering. But I'll still go with Rodgers. I know I'm going to catch flack for that, but I'm still going Aaron. How about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you with these 3 as options, knowing the wide receivers that they have in there with George Pickens and DK Metcalf. Yeah. Because although first of all, I'll just say this. If I were Fields, you'd think the better option with those receivers, and now you're going to have DK there for 5 years, be like, you know what, maybe I will come back. But I get where he's coming from, because it's like, y'all just benched me when we had a winning record. You benched me. But if I'm Eric DeCosta, I want you to sign Fields, because I don't think Fields can get the most out of those wide receivers. I think Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers can get the most out of those wide receivers, which is why Fields got
from DK.
Right, exactly.
In Seattle.
That's what I was about to get to here. Is it's like I agree with you with Aaron. I would just say the one thing is that Russ has had great success with DK. In fact, DK had his most yards in 2020 when he was with Russell Wilson. He had over 1,300 yards. And so that reunion, I think those moon balls to Pickens and DK, and you're forcing teams into a cover 2, and then maybe you're able to draft a new running back. It's like, okay, that's something that would strike more fear in me than Justin Fields. So I would still give the edge to Aaron Rodgers, though.
I'm going to give the edge to Rodgers as well. Obviously, Pittsburgh, a lot of people in the live chat are mentioning their offensive line. Yes, they got to regroup there if they're going to have a 42-year-old starting quarterback who is not mobile and never has been throughout his career.
Right.
But I still think I'm catching heat for it in the chat. I see it. Guys, do not give up on Aaron Rodgers. I'm telling you, he's got more in the tank.
Give up as in like.
Yeah, because they want him to succeed. No, I know you guys don't want him to succeed. I'm just saying, don't write him off just yet. And Sarah, while we're talking and things are kind of
overlook him. Don't overlook him from a Ravens point of view.
Sure. Yeah. Now things are coming in very inconsistently right now because of the X feed and what's happening, and Twitter is down for some, up for others. But just so that we're keeping up with the veteran free agent market at wide receiver, Chris Godwin is staying in Tampa. He just got a 3-year, $66 million deal with $44 million guaranteed to remain a Buccaneer. So I remember we at least had a brief conversation on him weeks ago. He's staying in Tampa.
Okay, so Godwin is staying in Tampa. Meanwhile, Davante Adams already signed with the Rams over the weekend. So those are two major wide receiver names, and DK Metcalf. All three of them were in play the last time we had a show on Friday.
And
And
think about
now
it too.
all three of them are signed.
And think about life for the Rams over the last month or so. You weren't sure if Stafford was going to return or whether he was a potential trade piece. You keep him. You already have your BYU guy in Puka Nacua, who's lit the league on fire in recent years, and now you bring in Devontae.
I know.
Look out for LA.
Was it Matthew Stafford's wife who was like pretty upset with them cutting Cooper Kupp? I think it was.
Well, meaning giving him permission to seek a trade, or has he been released?
Well, just that they were moving on from him.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't catch that, but she's
I had seen it.
She's very opinionated.
She's opinionated. I heard it on a podcast, and so it's kind of like, are you okay? Are we good now? Are we good now? Because we got Davante Adams. Although I'm sure they all have friendships and the wives, all hang out and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's an upgrade based off of what Kupp had been doing, and now you've got Davante Adams in there. So.
And just to be clear, Cooper is still under contract there, so it would come in the form of a trade here if that's what they elect to do.
Yeah, well, I would be shocked if they had all of them on there.
Oh,
right. I mean, they were already, kind of discussing that. So I'm sure they're like holding on to him, hoping for a trade. But now that free agency's here, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're still hoping for one, but I think that they've made it pretty clear that they're moving on from Cooper over there. Okay.
I think so as well. Let's make sure we're up to date here. Again, if you're just chiming in here on YouTube, you probably have realized that X is down, Twitter is down, but information is just kind of slowly working its way in. So there's little pieces, but there's not like a tweet deck that's just constantly flowing as
which is what we have set up. Other people like the chat saying, well, the news is elsewhere. And I do have the other, our workflow is based off of that, right? Like people don't realize that we have it all set up so that we don't miss any news, and it goes out 5 minutes before a show, and suddenly you have to go to like other apps or stuff like that is just not set up in our workflow. So, but we are trying to get it elsewhere for sure.
Hassan Reddick, 1 year, $14 million, including $12 million guaranteed with Tampa. So Hassan Reddick joining the Buccaneers defense, and we got to talk about the Browns defense, don't we?
Well, and so that's what we had on there is we had neither of us chose this is the biggest move over the weekend, but there's Myles Garrett who had a change of heart. So Myles Garrett's agent told Mary Kay Cabot, friend of the show, that, quote, Myles had a change of heart. Excited to go from Cleveland to Canton and chase championships in Ohio. So he is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And I can just imagine how these negotiations went down where Myles is like, hey, Andrew Berry, I want to be traded. Andrew, no, we can't do that. Well, you need to convince me that we're going to be able to win. Well, Myles, we're going to, like, Kirk Cousins is out there. We'll bring him in June, or we'll use the number 2 pick on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, whichever one's there. And he's like, nah, that's no good. And they're like, okay, well, what if we give you a pay raise? What if you get like new money, $30 million per year? No, I want out. $35 million per year. No, I want out. $40 million. Well, Kirk Cousins, he's underrated. Maybe Kirk Cousins could get this done, or maybe a rookie could get this done, because that $40 million. Oh, and by the way, $123.5 million is guaranteed, and I get $100 million of that in the first 3 years. Yeah, people need to relook at Kirk Cousins. He could really do this for us. We could really make it. Things start to look a lot better when you have over $100 million in your pocket.
And maybe, just maybe, he's able to dig deep and forgive Jimmy Haslam for declining a meeting last week. You think he's all right now?
Jimmy, I get it. You're a busy man. You're trying to build other things. No problem. No big deal. $40 million.
Yeah, this was a big domino. This is a big domino. And so, kind of what we were discussing last week, right, where it certainly felt like Myles was, even though the team had plenty of leverage, maybe on his way out of Cleveland. It kind of feels like Trey Hendrickson, who's been granted permission to seek a trade, could be on his way out of Cincinnati. And we built this whole show, right? Well, guess what? Myles Garrett is staying in the division, DK Metcalf is coming to the division.
Ugh.
And who else? I'm sure there's going to be more over the course of the next few hours.
I will say this, though, Bobby, from a Ravens perspective, we talked about this last week. It would have been great from a Ravens perspective if Miles and the Browns front office just didn't figure this out, and then he did sit out games. That would have been great from a Ravens perspective. But the next best thing, I said this on Friday, is that he goes ahead and re-signs with these guys instead of going to a legit Super Bowl contender. I don't want him to go to the Eagles. I don't want him going to the Commanders. What are the Ravens? If the Ravens were to make it to the Super Bowl, then all of a sudden, instead of dealing with him on the Browns, you got to deal with them over there. Or if he were to go to, I don't know, another AFC team. Like, I don't want him on a Super Bowl contender. He's the type of guy that will put them over the top. Okay,
well,
so
I think that's wise because, like I said earlier on, right, that he hasn't one player hasn't proven to be enough for Cleveland. Now, they did split the season series with him last year because of Jameis Winston. But, yeah, I think your point stands.
Yeah, it just we've been dealing this with for years. It's like the Browns just aren't. Now, they did upset the Ravens last year, but they're just not a legitimate threat in the postseason. So I actually think this is better than if you were to go to a Super Bowl contender. So, and by the way, just as a reminder with this Bill Simmons, there were so many people. I cannot tell you how many Pats fans or Chiefs fans were in my mentions once the Stanley news was out. And they were like looking at Stanley and Roger Rosengard, and they're like, man, that must be nice. It must be nice to have two guys that can protect your quarterback. And then Bill Simmons of the I'm forgetting the name that the
Ringer.
The Ringer. There we go. The Ringer. Thank you. He tweeted out, he's like, rip Ronnie Stanley to the Pats. 2025 NFL free agency, when having tons of cap space doesn't matter because everyone else apparently has unlimited cap space, even teams paying $50 million a year at a quarterback. And he says, I don't get it. Well, here's the thing. When you have a quarterback like Lamar, and then you have a running back like Derrick Henry, and you have a franchise and a culture like the Ravens, then a guy like Ronnie Stanley doesn't care about all the money that you have to offer, Pats. So it's not hard to understand. He doesn't get it, but I get it. He said it clearly. I want to be with Lamar. I want to be with Derek. I want to be with the same team that drafted me. He prioritizes winning over money. How do you not get that?
Hey, I think it's a great time to reset because I just finally got us on X. We are now live streaming across all platforms the way that we usually do on a daily basis. So for those of you who are just popping on X, it's not news to you that the feeds have been inconsistent or down today. So we're glad you're with us. We've got over 1,000 joining us right now. That number is climbing high. Thanks for being with us on this free agency special Monday. Of course, the legal tampering period has begun. We are 36 minutes in. There are announcements, reports, all kinds of different news items coming down the timeline. Nothing crazy Ravens related yet. We've spent the first half of this show kind of recapping the insanity that it was this past weekend in the AFC North. The Ravens making sure that their number one priority gets locked in, and that is retaining Ronnie Stanley, who received a contract extension over the weekend. Sarah, let's get in a Manta Sleep read, and we'll continue the show just after this. This episode, as you guys know by now, is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And for those of you, let's make sure this is up here.
Oof, that Twitter announcement really just boosted our concurrence, Tila.
Yes,
although Twitter's still not working for me, but go on with Manta Sleep. I'm sorry, Manta.
The good news is your live is up. We're both live on X, but the feeds are not exactly working. So anyway, hey, the fact that it's happening on day one of free agency, totally out of our control. What can we do? Thank you to Manta Sleep for the continued support that they give us in this offseason, all year long. These Manta Sleep masks give you true 100% blackout for deeper sleeps. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes, and you got advanced materials built in with ventilation for unmatched breathability. And if you go to mantasleep.com by clicking on that link that we have included in the top of the show notes, it'll take you right here. And man, ton of different masks to choose from, including the weighted mask, the cool mask, the steam, and the kids' masks, along with that sound mask with the built-in Bluetooth feature. The white noise machine is a popular item as well. If you find something you like, use our discount code at checkout. That's Vault10. It'll get you 10% off your next purchase. And continued thanks to Manta Sleep. Where to?
Well, just to finish up AFC North, and I want to get to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson here in just a minute. But obviously, we know the three teams that made big moves. Then there's the Bengals. Okay, then there's the Bengals. Okay, remember, the Bengals had told Jamar Chase that they would make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And the longer they wait, the more they're going to have to pay up. Because now they're going to have to beat Myles Garrett's extension at $40 million a year. So they got to deal with that with Jamar Chase. They still have the Higgins stuff going on, and they're letting their best pass rusher go out the door. The Bengals fans and media are scrutinizing them, as they should, saying that had the Bengals acted when they were supposed to, they could have had Jesse Bates, defender, for $12 million a year, T. Higgins for $20 million per year, which sounds like a pretty good bargain at this point. Could have had Jamar Chase at $35 million a year. Now it's going to be over 40, and they could have gone and held on to Trey Hendrickson for about $25 million per year. And this Who Day account finishes that tweet by saying, worst front office in NFL history. But Bobby, they did get one deal done. They got a 3-year deal done with tight end Mike Gesicki for $25.5 million total. So where are they at? What is that about? A little over about between 8 and 9 million per year. So woo-wee. They just are bargaining against themselves. Players are like, all right, I'll wait. The price tag keeps going up because yesterday's price is not today's price.
I think a lot of guys in that building are thinking that, if not saying that. So what do they have over their head right now? They got Higgins on a second consecutive franchise tag, which he's not happy with, obviously. You just granted one of the league's leading pass rushers and a perennial candidate for Defensive Player of the Year in Hendrickson permission to seek a trade. You got your quarterback that's speaking out this offseason about what the priorities need to be. There's a lot going on in Bengals country.
A lot going on. But you know what? Maybe
and you haven't paid Jamar yet. like you just mentioned. So those are 4 things. Good night.
Ooh. So maybe they'll fix things like the Browns just did with Myles, but they are going to have to back up the Brinks truck to get it done. And speaking of the Brinks truck, Bobby, let's talk about Josh Allen, his brand new contract, and the implications that it may have on Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. So late last night, it is reported by Adam Schefter that the Bills and Josh Allen reached an agreement on a new, here we go, record-setting 6-year, $330 million contract. And get this, Bobby, it includes $250 million guaranteed. It is the largest guarantee ever given to a player in NFL history. And here's if that wasn't big enough news already, Bobby, the deal was made when Allen still had 4 years left on his contract. What was your reaction?
That this might be looking pretty in a couple of years for them. And I credit them I commend them from a monetary front office forward thinking perspective on this. This is going to look good for them. He's not going anywhere. He's coming off the year of his life. And I think this is going to age really well for them. And guess who's coming next? Those are the 2 things I think about. 1, it's smart business. And 2, Lamar, your benchmark was just set.
That's right. Because look, here's where Josh's Allen contract is now and Lamar Jackson's contract is now. And remember, they were both 2018 first-round draft picks. So they should be close. They're both now MVPs. They've both been to the AFC Championship game. Neither one has been to a Super Bowl. They've both done a lot of winning. Okay, so their contracts should be very similar. No reason not to. But Josh is now at $330 million. Lamar signed a couple years ago at $260 million. Bobby, that $250 million guaranteed that Josh is getting, which by the way is different from fully guaranteed, but we don't need to get into that. That $250 million guaranteed is almost as much as Lamar's full contract that he signed just a couple years ago. Lamar's full contract was $260. Josh Allen's is $250. Guaranteed. So to your point, here's the other thing. Josh Allen had 4 years left on his contract. Lamar has 3 years left on his contract. I was saying that it might be a year early. They went like 2 years early.
Yeah.
And so the reason why a team and a quarterback would want to do that, especially quarterbacks that are winning, okay, from a team point of view, what you just said, it's going to look good down the road. You don't want to be the Bengals where you just keep waiting too long to extend your guys. Okay. You want to get it extended because by the time you get to that, 6th year, it's looking like a pretty good and manageable year because the cap keeps going up. So that's why you want to do it from a team perspective. Plus, you're betting on these guys, and there's nobody better to bet on. There's 4 quarterbacks that are Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow are quarterbacks you can bet on. So give them all those years. Keep extending him. From a quarterback's point of view, why do you want to do it? Well, you're getting new money right now. Lamar Jackson already got all of his guaranteed money. And just 2 years later, he can get more guaranteed money. And it's going in his bank account immediately. And on top of it, I'm not just saying this for Lamar, but any quarterback would like that security in case an injury comes around. Right? And it's not just Lamar and that he runs more and this and that. No, it's not that. Is anybody would like that security. And by the way, you can keep doing these extensions and keep getting new money as it goes along. So to your point, these are the new benchmarks. Dak Prescott has the highest average salary at $60 million per year. So if Eric DeCosta flies down to Florida, that's the benchmark. Lamar, we want to make you the highest paid, average salary wise. And the other benchmark is the $250 million guaranteed. Brian McFarland pointed that out here, right? Remember when Lamar was first going through his contract negotiations, he put on his Twitter that photo of the grill that says, "I need money" on the teeth. That's exactly what it's looking like. And so again, it's one of the most underreported things going on right now. And maybe it'll be a surprise to everybody else, just like this Josh Allen one has been a surprise, which is news. I'm sure the Bills love that they did that without any media scrutiny. Nobody's covering this. And I'm sure EDC and Lamar would equally like to make sure that this doesn't get out and nobody has to scrutinize it. Nobody has to push them against each other. Nobody has to say, well, Lamar deserves this or the Ravens deserve that or, any of that. You can avoid all of it because nobody's talking about it. But EDC did say that he was going to talk to Lamar about his contract and that he was going to fly down there. When that happens, I have no idea if it's already happened or if it's going to happen, but they now have new benchmarks, as you said, Bobby.
This is precisely why our off-season priority items were the way that we listed them out as when I went on the road to Indy, when I went on the road to New Orleans. Right? Like this is literally, and can we go back to this slide right here? Because I mean, just put it into consideration here that Lamar's just a couple of years into that extension. Couple of years in, right? It was 2023.
Yep.
And he has fallen to 9th in terms of highest average salary. So that's what I was referencing when I say it's good business by Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it'll be even better business by Baltimore if they can get that done in the future.
Absolutely. So this morning on First Take, Stephen A. Smith, Dan Orlovsky, and Shannon Sharp were talking about this contract and what it means for Josh Allen. Now, we have taken notice inside the vault, and Voltrons have taken notice, and Ravens Twitter at large has taken notice that it always seems like Lamar Jackson is held to a higher standard than some of the other quarterbacks. And those guys always say, yeah, we do hold him at a higher standard because he's been an MVP. But now that Josh Allen has an MVP under his belt, and now that he's the highest paid quarterback ever in terms of guaranteed money, they are now changing who they feel like has the most pressure to win now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dio. I think he still had like 4 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
And for them to tear that deal up, I mean, but he's played it. And I love this. When guys outplay the contract that they're currently under, reward him. Because if he underperforms, you shall release him or you restructure the contract. So I like an organization that does it both ways. You outperform, I'll pay you. If you underperform, I'm going to need to claw back some of that money. But what it does do, it puts him under immense amount of pressure to win. I believe D.O. Stephen A., he's under the same amount of pressure that Lamar Jackson is, because the MVP adds another level of pressure. Not only is he the highest paid, he got the most guaranteed money in NFL history. He has MVP, as you heard Molly read. MVP, Josh Allen. When you get those 3 letters added to your name, it creates immense pressure if you don't already have a Super Bowl. So we just ratcheted up the expectations, the intensity, and what we expect from Josh Allen. He needs to win, and he needs to win sooner rather than later.
I do agree with you, Shannon. He is now, I put him up there as being even under more pressure than Lamar Jackson. Okay, right now, he's elevated in that regard. But he is a league MVP. He was just in the AFC Championship game, and he's an absolute stud. And to lose Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis last year and to still have the kind of year that he had has cemented his status as an absolute elite quarterback in this National Football League. He deserves this bag.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to hold him to that, Bobby, right? Because for years, they have given excuses to other quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Don't give him to Lamar. And they've always said, well, it's because he's a 2-time MVP. Okay, well, now they're saying we're going to hold Josh Allen to a higher standard because he has his MVP, as contested as it was. Yeah, that's the way it's going to go down in history. And he's now the highest paid in terms of guaranteed money. But he hasn't made it any further than Lamar Jackson when it comes to the postseason. And so I hope we're going to hold him to it. We're going to hold him to it. You now say he has as much pressure, if not more, than Lamar. We hope that the commentary follows throughout the season.
For sure. We'll see.
Should we get to a couple of super chats while we're on this topic?
Let's do that. And we also have to shout out our new members as well. We're over 40 channel members. We just rolled this out, this new feature, this new option to support the channel, to get more involved, to cash in on some perks that we have available to you. So if you go to the show notes, if you go to click on the link that we have included as a pinned comment in the live chat, you can learn more. But Nocturnal and Ty 2 Wavy are 2 newest channel members. So shout out you both. We appreciate you guys for being on board. Deshaun Davis, Sarah.
Says, I heard a good point. Lamar and Roquan don't have agents. Maybe that's why we haven't heard about their extensions. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Which is also why the first time there was contract talk, anytime reports came out, I was very incredulous on most of them. And they were all over the place. And it's because neither the Ravens nor Lamar talk about contract situations, and there's no agent to spill the beans. And so it's on Baltimore media's mind. I know because Jeff was on our show at the Combine and he talked about it. And Morgan Madsen had asked about it when the season ended. They talked about it, but they got no information. There's 0 reports on it because neither Lamar nor Eric DeCosta will talk about it.
Kobe Pruitt. Are the Bengals treating Joe Burrow like he's a slightly more talented Brock Purdy? They're acting like he needs superstar talent around him to be successful. Cincinnati is going to need to score 100 points. Robbie Pate.
EDC needs to do the same for Lamar. He deserves it. That's right.
Another one from Kobe. EDC needs to correct his past mistake in waiting too long to sign Lamar after Josh signed his first deal and offer Lamar a big number that can be spread over 6 to 7 years. And here's one more from Kobe.
I don't think that EDC waited. They literally were negotiating for 2 years. At the time, I'm telling you, at the time, what screwed it up was Deshaun Watson. It was the fully guaranteed number. That's what screwed it up.
A lot of things.
But that's in the past now. Okay. Kobe Pruitt also adds, Steelers close to a deal with Aaron Rodgers per Jerry Dolak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Wow.
Bro, in the AFC North, we could have Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, and then who knows, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, who knows? But it's not going to be Deshaun Watson that they can rely on.
No,
It's
no.
a murderer's row in the AFC. That is for sure.
Yeah, for Cleveland, it'll probably be a Bridge and one of those guys that you just mentioned, unless they're not
Yeah.
fully in on Ward or Shador, and they want to go the Bridge route. And then I don't know. I floated that out. I floated that scenario out last week in terms of like use Deshaun as a bridge for next year. My gut tells me he's played his last snap as a Brown, but you just never know, especially at the numbers that they're on the books for and totally on the hook for with him.
One last comment on the Lamar Jackson contract extension that may or may not be going down, but I think if the Ravens are smart, they are pursuing this hard. I would hope that EDC has already been down there because it would just be smart business for now and the future. It would be smart business, and you go down there and you tell him that you're going to make him the highest paid. But I had a few people push back on Twitter about this, and they're like, "Why would you? This is the dumbest idea ever. Why would you extend a quarterback that can't win in the postseason? Yada yada yada." What's hilarious to me, Bobby, is here we are. How somebody could say that when we're sitting here on the first day of legal tampering, and the Seattle Seahawks and the Steelers and the Jets and the Giants are fighting over the likes of a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, of a Justin Fields who hasn't been able to get his career going, over Sam Darnold who was left for dead and then had one resurgent year, or Russell Wilson who's also aging. Like, these are the guys that are out there, and they're all scrambling and fighting and getting into bidding wars over those four quarterbacks. And then you have the audacity to say it's not smart to lock up two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, who keeps ascending in the postseason. You want to be back in this world? You want to say goodbye to Lamar and go to this world that the Steelers have been in since Ben Roethlisberger left? And they keep trying a stopgap after stopgap, and then trying to take a stab at a quarterback late in the first round or second round. No, we're not going back there. Plus, anybody that writes off Lamar this early, it's just, he hasn't done it yet, but it's crazy to me that you would write it off and not want to lock him in when you're watching these teams beg. And hey, Fields, don't go hit free agency. Come back to us. We know we benched you, but you're looking around. There's nobody to dance with. Fields, come back to us. You're the youngest person on the dance floor. We'll take you. That's what you want to go back to? No, I'm taking the two-time MVP, who's an absolute generational talent.
There's definitely the more optimal scenario. There's no arguing where you'd rather be. And the Ravens are obviously, they got their priorities, they got their needs. They just addressed a massive one, as we covered in the beginning of the show over the weekend. But yeah, in terms of quarterback stability, I think it's all pretty clear where you'd rather be within this division right now. And that brings us, man, everything is misfiring right now.
Yeah,
I got to tell
misfiring.
you, everything is misfiring. Twitter is up, but yet it's not being pushed out. You could just tell. But anyway, we're moving forward. Jamison Hensley notes, with the NFL's negotiation period, which is already almost an hour in, which began at noon Eastern time, he listed the Ravens' top 10 free agents. Patrick McCary, Patrick Ricard, Brandon Stevens, Malik Harrison, Nelson Aguilar, Tre'Davious White, Tylan Wallace, Chris Board, Josh Johnson, and look who rounds out the list, Deontay Johnson. So,
okay, Bobby, let's go through this. Who's leaving? Okay, stay or go, Patrick McCary. Now, I'm not saying what you want, what you think is going to happen. Stay or go, Patrick McCary.
I think he's gone.
I think he's gone. I think he's going to make a lot of money. Patrick Ricard.
I think they'll keep him.
Agreed. Stevens.
Gone.
Agreed. Malik Harrison.
Could go both ways here. Honestly, I don't know if I feel stronger about one way or the other. Do you have a gut feel that pushes you in a certain direction? To me, it's 50-50.
I don't know what his market's going to be, but I think they'd like to have him back on a modest deal.
Yeah. I don't have a great feel for it, though. I just, like, Malik has been a good special teamer for you. He has obviously played inside linebacker. He's played some outside linebacker for you. He's a homegrown Raven. They've developed him. He's sort of like your do-it-all guy. But like you said, what's the market going to dictate? I don't know.
Yeah, and you may want to wait till after the draft. See what you can get there with
Yeah.
11 picks.
Well, you know
So
what's funny too about this list is that I don't know how many of these dominoes fall today. Like,
no,
you know what I
no.
mean? Like there
Like
might only be
McCary,
a
I could see
handful.
going. Yeah, McCary, I could see going sooner than later.
Yeah.
But
there's
most of
nothing.
these guys are like maybe Brandon Stevens could go, but like most of these guys, I'd say the top 3 could go before the draft. The rest could all be decided after the draft.
And think about that. Like
Yeah.
last year, obviously, with the insane run on free agent running backs and them deciding to invest in Derek, I mean that was blockbuster. They just don't have that this year. They got Ronnie Stanley taken care of. And this is a list that's just, when you look at what's going on elsewhere,
Yep.
it's just a little underwhelming, which, hey, it's
That's a
not
good
like,
place to be.
I was going to say, exactly. You don't consistently win by spending in free agency. You
Okay,
don't.
Nelson. Oh, sorry. Do you have anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, on the Nelly.
Nelson, stay or go.
Go.
Tre'Davious White.
This is where it goes back to last week when we were both surprised by Jeff's list that he had him on his stay.
Yeah. I say revisit after the draft.
Yes.
Okay, Tylan Wallace.
I'm gonna go with stay.
Agreed.
On a modest deal that continues to call on him for special teams.
Yep.
And in certain spots where we know he's a proven playmaker.
Yep. Chris Board.
Stay.
Josh Johnson.
Go.
Quarterback. Yep. And then Deontay is a good, obviously. That's just like, can we use him for comp pick stuff? Meanwhile, Spencer Schultz, which, by the way, how about let's give a shout out to the podcast guys for breaking news, because we're not getting anything from the traditional outlets, the local traditional outlets of news. And it was Cole Jackson who was on the Ronnie Stanley stuff, and he was correct. He also over the weekend said yesterday's price wasn't today's price, and then finally after he got signed, people said that he came up a little bit throughout the week, and so he got that right. So Cole Jackson gets a point. Spencer Schultz in the past has gotten things right with I'm trying to remember what the news it was, but anyway, after
Ronnie,
the
Henry stuff with Tennessee and the ownership blockage and so on and so forth,
and they got that right. So let's give podcasters some love for some of the news that they're breaking. But podcasters don't say per sources, they say per the streets. So Spencer, after that signing to Ronnie Stanley, he said, I'm hearing the Ravens have turned their attention to retaining Ardarius Washington. And turns out, after he kind of talks about that, Ardarius starts posting on X cryptically, as the guys do these days. And he tweeted bet. And then an hour later, he tweets, SOB, stand on business all 2025 regardless. So I don't know exactly what's gone down. We haven't gotten any news since, but my guess is that the Ravens wanted to do a long-term deal. Maybe Ardarius wanted more than they wanted, so they might go with to go ahead and tender him instead of doing a long-term deal. And I think Ardarius might be saying, hey, whether it's a restricted free agent tender or I'm signed to an extension, I'm standing on business all 2025 regardless. So definitely sounds like they've been trying to work things out, those two sides.
Well, good for him. Mm-hmm. This is his opportunity right here. You never know as an undrafted guy. And he probably never thought that he was going to get the opportunity that he got this past season when they benched Marcus Williams, and he stepped up admirably.
Big time.
So big advocate of guys that you just don't know how many bites at the apple they're going to get, particularly at his position, at his size, where he was drafted, so on and so forth. He is undersized. We remember what Wink told us over the summer when he was on the golf course during our show. I mean, the guy's 5'8" on a good day. I'm 5'8" on a good day, by the way, with the proper shoes, Skechers shoes, I might add. But I'm all for. I hope Ardarius gets the right opportunity, and I hope that selfishly he stays in Baltimore because he's a heck of a player, and just the development, the story of him, just how valuable he was when Marcus went down. He provided stability, not as much as Kyle Hamilton, but he provided plenty of stability on the back end for them last year.
I don't know what they offered Ardarius Washington, but whatever they offered, I feel like if he turned it down, he could be taking a risk, right? Brandon Stevens the same way. Brandon Stevens bet on himself. Ronnie Stanley bet on himself. Worked out for Ronnie, and he still took a hometown discount. Didn't work out for Brandon Stevens, but heck, who knows? Maybe he'll get paid on the market over this next week. Now with Ardarius Washington, he's all heart. I love this man. This man is inspiring. And at the same time, because of that smaller stature, it makes you remember all the injuries he's been through. He could have been a breakout player years ago because he's always had the heart and the skill and the talent, but he wasn't available. And so it makes me nervous for him that if he were to go on a tender this year and he bets on himself, I hope he doesn't get injured again, both for the Ravens' sake and his sake, because he balled out and I want him to ball out again. And if he goes down, then the Ravens are going to look there, who knows where they would turn. So that's bad for the Ravens, but it'd also be bad for him as he goes into this year. I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge year for him. And I hope it works out well for both him and the Ravens.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's out of his hands, right? He's such an
well, that's what I'm saying. It's out of his hands. So take what's offered, or
right.
try to get close.
Right. Because the harsh reality is that his measurables and how much of an underdog he is, it's just not heavily coveted in free agency.
Right.
And the Ravens took a chance on him out of TCU, and he's proven to be a great story when healthy, to your point. But unfortunately, that's been more of an if rather than when healthy for him, with the exception of last year, which is what I think you were alluding to there. Jameson's top needs.
Yeah. So let me look at this. I think I agree with him. He's got edge rusher number 1, cornerback number 2, safety number 3, interior defensive line 4, kicker number 5, guard number 6. I think I'd put that up higher.
Yeah.
Unless, like, are they feeling great about Voorhees? Because again, and then you got Fa'alele. I know they feel great about Fa'alele. Go ahead.
Sorry, I interrupted you because he's got wide receiver at 10, which is ludicrous. But keep going on guard.
Well, listen, I just think that should be higher up. I think I'd put that above interior defensive line. I might have that at 4.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's why I wouldn't.
Okay.
Clearly they have told us how they feel about Daniel Fa'alele.
Yes.
Okay.
For the Ravens, it's probably at number 6. Yeah.
We know that, right? And then I'll go back to what John Harbaugh told me at the combine when I asked in the media scrum about Voorhees, and it felt confident to me. It felt like a confident answer that last year him losing his starting spot was due to injury, and then they liked where things were headed with McCary because they trusted him. So instead of having a Voorhees that they took a flyer on, obviously, with that 7th round pick after he went down with the ACL and then essentially had a redshirt rookie season, they're going with what they knew and what they had confidence in, which was obviously McCary. Now, I'm just judging that based off of John's words in a podium setting. You can't put too much weight on that, but I think they like Voorhees. I think we've barely seen, and which is obviously when you've barely seen a player, it's tough to gauge confidence. I guess what I'm saying is that would be lower down on my list, and I would certainly have wide receiver above it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got wide receiver below inside linebacker.
But you know that already because we did our rankings a few weeks back.
Well, and that's where I feel like you're contradicting yourself, because when we had the DK Metcalf, where do you have wide receiver on this list?
Well, what did we have? I had it at, you asked me that last week and I forgot what I had it at.
Well, just tell me right now. Look at the list. Where would you put wide receiver?
Oh, I think I had it at 3. So I'll have it was at either 3 or 4.
You were not at 4. You were not at 4.
No? You think it was?
No. You were at least at 3, maybe 2.
Right, I'll put it at 3.
Okay, so you go edge rusher. No, because we had the conversation that I was surprised you put wide receiver above cornerback. Because I was saying you need to replace Stevens, who is a 17-game starter, or as a wide receiver, if he's not going to see the field much with the two tight ends. I'm pretty sure you had wide receiver number 2.
I'm looking at our notes right now to see if I have the Sarah and Bobby.
I don't know. I think we just talked on the phone.
Wait.
Spring. Oh, do you have it?
Wait a second.
Oh,
let's go. I got it. Okay.
What do you have?
Mine. Let's see. My top 4 based on the notes.
Okay.
This was prior to Ronnie. Just everybody be clear. This was prior to Ronnie being extended. Mine was 1 tackle.
Okay, we were
2
the same.
Edge. 3 wide receiver.
Okay.
4 safety.
Okay, so right now wide receiver would be 2 for you because obviously I'm assuming offensive tackle comes down for you since the Ravens re-signed. Yep. Okay, so number 2. So anyway, that's where I felt like I don't understand, like whatever. I feel like you're contradicting yourself because if wide receiver is number 2 for you, you'd think that it's like, go out and get a dude. But at the same time, you're looking to go to the third tier kind of wide receiver market, the third tier.
Well, it was more like, not to revisit all the stuff that we discussed last week, but it was more like, no, I don't think they need a dude. It was like, give them somebody who is reliable and a playmaker. If God forbid 1 and 2 were to go down again at the wide receiver position in January, like that's not Nelly.
Right, but you're talking depth. Cornerback, you need a new starter.
You're trying to replace Stevens,
a 17-game starter.
But they replaced. Look, they found a rookie starter last April. Who's to say they can't do that again? Who's to say that Tampa?
It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a rookie. It was like Roger Rosengarten is a rookie that replaced right tackle, but right tackle was a huge need. It doesn't matter who you're getting to like. A starter is a bigger need than depth.
Yes, but I think that they have a couple options in Tampa, and whoever if they go an opening round, that there might be a really talented corner to go back-to-back years in the first round. Who's to say?
Yeah, but again, but you're using a first round corner because it's a big need, or in part because it's a big need. It's also because it's the best player available there. So it's not about because it's a rookie. It doesn't make it, the replacement's a rookie. It doesn't make it less of a need. Like edge rusher. We both have edge rusher number 1. And we both think, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. That could come in the form of a rookie. That doesn't make it a lesser of a need.
Here's the funny part. When you look at the new list, when we take tackle out, we're only arguing about 1 or 2 spots difference. Like now my new list looks edge, 1, 2, wide receiver, 3, safety, 4, corner. Like that's my new list.
Yeah. Yeah.
And January told me why my list should look like that.
January will tell you the same thing if you don't have a cornerback to replace a 17-game starter.
But
how you can put depth ahead of a starter in terms of needs, regardless of who replaces him, is backwards.
I think we're overlooking TJ Tampa.
Yeah, okay. If you're saying TJ Tampa is the next 17-game starter, then I understand. Is that what you're saying?
I think what I'm saying is TJ will be a candidate to replace Brandon, whoever they bring in the draft, and maybe Tre'Davious gives you that kind of depth as well. He's not going to be a starter for you, but to me, I'm less concerned because the guys they have in the building and who they'll likely bring in, either in the latter half of free agency and or early in the draft. I'm less concerned about that position than I am wide receiver because of what happened in January.
The irony of all this is that I have wide receiver ranked below it, but I thought DK Metcalf was a good idea, more just because of who he is and that people like him don't come available more often. And you poo-pooed it, even though wide receiver is your number two need. But let's move forward.
And now he's in the division, and we get to talk about him twice a year.
It's gonna be a problem. All right.
One thing we're lockstep on, though, is edge rusher. That's for sure. Who can't be lockstep with us on that? Come on.
Well, we could argue that wide receiver should go number one, or excuse me, cornerback should go number one, based off the fact, again, we're doing a Jameson Hensley tweet here. The top 2 wide receivers for each AFC North team, the Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Browns, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. Ravens, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. And the Steelers, DK Metcalf and George Pickens. Bengals and Steelers, we are going to see Jamar and T twice next season. We're going to see DK and George twice next season. Ravens Nation Live tweets, "We ain't scared," and puts up the pictures of Humphrey, Wiggins, and Hamilton. But Bobby, they need another piece.
Well,
So
yeah,
one could argue for another defensive back.
absolutely. And this is where, and we'll have plenty of these conversations in the coming months.
Sure.
But how are you going to game plan against DK? He is 6'4", 235, and a physical specimen.
And you didn't want him in Baltimore.
Oh, you are unbelievable. I literally throughout our entire argument, what did I make sure I continue to reiterate? Yes, he would make the Ravens better. Yes. I reiterate
we don't
that
need him. Ravens don't need that, but go ahead.
Yeah. He's a physical specimen. How are you going to game plan a matchup against him? Yes, the guys on the screen are dogs in their own rights. And Kyle obviously compares best to DK size-wise, right? Like Kyle's 6', I think he's 6'3", 6'4". We know what he can do. He can match up with anybody on the football field. But you're asking a lot of an undersized, slender Nate Wiggins if he's in single coverage against DK Metcalf. And that's just something you got to think about. You know, Marlon obviously is best served in the slot. Will DK spend a lot of time in the slot in Pittsburgh? Probably not much. So how will you game plan against him? It's going to be absolutely fascinating, Sarah, and it will be by committee, you would think.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Bobby, I think it also just pushes a little bit more of why we both have edge rusher, because as number one, because edge rusher is like, don't even give the quarterback a chance to throw it out to DK. You know what I mean? Don't allow anything to develop down there. And so an edge rusher can dictate the football play, whereas like a defensive back is back there kind of reacting to it. And so to me, it's like even more, yeah, you still got to get a corner. I mean, those are the top 2 needs right at this point.
Yeah.
But my goodness, like don't even let, especially with the Steelers who have a terrible offensive line, right? Like let's not even let DK or George become a major factor in getting the ball downfield, because you're putting so much pressure on that terrible offensive line against what with the way things are looking against a 42-year-old quarterback, right? Like make him dink and dunk all the way down. And because they're too afraid of your pass rush. So that's why that remains number one for me in terms of needs.
Speaking of Pittsburgh,
yeah.
Schefter, nothing crazy, but former Steelers left tackle Dan Moore reached agreement today on a 4-year, $82 million deal. It includes $50 million guaranteed with Tennessee. The deal includes $30 million in year 1 and $50 in the he meant to say the following 2 years, but he said the first 2 years. But the reason why I bring this up was just going back to what you said earlier on in the show. We came off the top talking about Ronnie and what he might have garnered on the market. Look, all due respect to Dan Moore, you're taking Ronnie over him every day of the week and twice on Sunday, and look at the money he got in free agency from Tennessee.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And finally, Twitter's working for me, so now I'm like looking, see what other news might be out there.
Must be nice. Good for you, because it ain't from me.
It's not. How'd you get that?
Well, they're literally coming in like little by little. I'm getting like a tweet here, a tweet there. You're saying your tweet deck's fired off?
My tweet deck is fired up now.
Unreal.
And I'm noticing that my there it goes. My tweet for the show didn't go out in video form. It went out in link form. But okay, not seeing any other news that we missed though, now that it's back up.
Oh, well, this came down. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says that former Raven Zadarius Smith is planning to be released by the Detroit Lions. He had 9 sacks last year. It was a few years ago now that there was that would-be agreement that didn't end up becoming an agreement in Baltimore about a second stint with the Ravens. But he'll be out there available according to Fowler.
9 sacks. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he could be. I think that's. I don't know. I mean, they might be ticked off that it seemed like there was a deal. Who knows how it all went down? But certainly from a Ravens fan's perspective, the way the news hit is it just seemed like there was a deal, and then he backed out when somebody else came with more money. But then he claimed that there was no deal. So who knows? But if there's hard feelings for that, then that's a different story. But in terms of like production and what he brings and knowing what he does on the field, I'm open to that.
Yeah, and then you got to go back.
But
and
to
you're
be
like,
clear,
get younger.
but that's my point. Is you can do both at once.
Yeah.
Right? You can do both at once. I am not at all in like if the Ravens go out and were to get Zardarius Smith or another veteran, that in no way would have me say, okay, you don't need to draft one now. The Ravens need to get younger at pass rusher for sure.
Of course. Speaking of pass rushers, by the way, we had this conversation within the last month or so. Khalil Mack, former NFL DPOY, reached agreement on a 1-year, fully guaranteed $18 million deal to remain a Charger, so he's staying in L.A. Joey Bosa will not. Remember, they released him within the last week or so. But Khalil Mack, Sarah, we had at least some of these conversations about what he might look like.
Yeah.
Ain't getting to the market.
18 million. He had how many sacks last year? 4, something like that. I think he didn't have a ton of sacks.
Okay.
And so just to compare that once again to Kyle Van Noy, who had 11 or 12. What was where he ended up? And he's going to cost the Ravens. He cost the Ravens. His cap hit this year will be $6.1 million. He signed a deal 2 years for $9 million. Khalil's getting almost 4 times that because he's $18 million for 1 year.
Mack had 6 sacks last year and 17 in 2023. So,
yeah. Now he might have been injured and whatnot, but my goodness, again, the Ravens are getting quite the steal with Kyle Van Noy. Meanwhile, if you want to know what the market may look like for Odafe Oweh, over the weekend, Buffalo, not only did they give Josh Allen all that money, they also signed former first-round pick Greg Rousseau to a 4-year, $80 million extension. So it's about $20 million per year there. And so as many others said, including Cole, that's your benchmark for Odafe Oweh. And he writes, I would imagine that peace sign tweet that he had last week, I think it was, maybe 2 weeks. That peace sign tweet shows us he was offered something he might not have liked. So we have a Lamar Jackson benchmark. We have a Odafe Oweh benchmark. Do you feel comfortable paying Odafe Oweh $20 million per year is the question.
He's been a late bloomer in terms of development, coming off a career year. Doesn't obviously sack the quarterback as much as you would like, although he did hit the double-digit category this past season. My gut tells me I should be comfortable with it because I think that haven't seen his best yet. And much like a Matabike, if you have a little bit of patience, maybe that breakout year is coming.
Yeah.
So,
like, I want to give Odafe his props for blooming, right? It was like, to your point, he was a late bloomer. And so it was good to see him get those double-digit sacks. But still, it still feels like he may be benefiting from the system a little bit with Matabike inside and then Kyle Van Noy and Dr. Rush and then the way they disguise things. It's not like the Eagles where you're just taking 4, right? And you're going. And therefore you can keep more players back in the passing game, that you're disrupting things with just 4 players. That's not how Odafe got it. So it just feels like he's arrived at being a good, solid player, but I don't know that is it worthy of that type of money? It still feels like a little too much for me.
Oh,
but he'll get it. He'll get it out on when he hits the market. He'll get it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And you think about how This dude didn't start playing football till way late in his life compared to most.
Right.
And I just I get I get this feeling that we have not seen peak Odafe Owe yet, and he's left us wanting more. I don't know if the Ravens want more, but I know I've been left wanting more. And when you have that kind of, he's so physically gifted, and you bring in a Chuck Smith who's clearly enhanced his technique, which is what you were kind of alluding to there. Yeah, he's benefiting. He's benefiting from the market. I think we're in agreement there. But what's going on X now that it's starting to fire off? Nothing yet. So
here, I just want to. I had this bookmarked just because we're talking about defensive ends and whatnot. So Adam Schefter had put out a tweet about the highest paid pass rushers, and it's Myles Garrett leading the way at $40 million, then Max Crosby 35.5, Nick Bosa 34. So Sauce Gardner, cornerback for the Jets, quote retweets that and says, "Can somebody educate me on why the cornerback market is significantly lower than defensive end / wide receiver?" And I feel like it's what we just talked about. Is here the Ravens have Metcalf coming, and then you've got Jamar and T at the Bengals, but yet we want a pass rusher, and it's because pass rushers can dictate the game more than a cornerback or safety can. I mean, all of the work is important. You need 11 guys for sure, but if you don't even give a chance for the quarterback to even reach those cornerbacks and wide receiver battles in the back end, then that's the way you got to go.
Well, Sauce is going to enjoy this, Sarah, that there's a new highest paid defensive back, and it is J.C. Horn, Pro Bowl corner for the Carolina Panthers, just got a 4-year, $100 million deal. That's 25 annually and 70 guaranteed. So, yeah, Sauce may have his questions about how the market dictates certain things for certain positions, but you're going to like this right here, Sauce. I know that.
That's $25 million per year, which wouldn't even make this list. Adam Schefter gave us the top 5 defensive ends or / pass rushers. It wouldn't even make this top 5 list.
No, it wouldn't make the list, but at least he knows where he's going to be because he's going to reset it when he gets there.
Will. Yes, he will. In other news, the Chargers informed Gus Edwards that he will be released and become a free agent. So, Gus Bus, we love you, but I do not see a reunion in the future.
Nope, but hopefully he gets another opportunity. And that brings us to some more quick hits. We appreciate you guys for being with us. Legal tampering period is an hour and 25 minutes old, and the new league year begins on Wednesday. That's the 12th, 4 p.m. Eastern, so should be a lot of news coming down the pike. Looks like Aaron Rodgers could be imminent to become a Pittsburgh Steeler based on some reporting from Jerry Dulac. But let's get back to some super chats. We left off with Kobe, who said exactly that. This was
Steelers close to a deal with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I read that one.
Kobe gave us this. And then JB, a.k.a. BMore56, says, Bobby, you have a lot of faith in Rodgers. I just don't see it based on recent performance. JB, from the first half of his season last year and what I've watched and what I've talked to my buddy Jake, who watches every single snap, our buddy Jake Asman for the Jets content, the first half left a lot to be desired for Aaron. But I think the argument that a lot of people that are and Pittsburgh clearly could be one of them if they're planning on signing him, is that he was still kind of recovering from the aftermath of a really quick rehab from that Achilles. And when you're on the other side of 40, clearly you don't recover at the same speed that somebody that's, in his 20s does. So I think if you look at some of the tape that he put out there in the second half, and you consider the fact that he's now throwing to DK Metcalf and George Pickens, there's a lot to like there. They have to retool offensively. If you don't protect him, he's not going to protect himself because he's not a mobile quarterback. But I think he's got more left in the tank. I don't think it's going to be, by the way, to be clear, I don't think that makes them Super Bowl caliber in Pittsburgh. I just think it makes them very competitive in the division. C King.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm actually siding with you a little bit on this. Like, he's definitely older, but he has been injured, and so with those wide receivers, that would definitely, again, not a Super Bowl contender, as you said, but it's like, could it be an upgrade for the Steelers? It could be. We've already seen what it looks like with Russ and Fields. We haven't seen it with Rodgers, and so that's why you kind of have to like pause for a second and be like, could they be better with this? But yeah, C King, he says our secondary is going to have fun covering DK Pickens and Pat Fryermuth at the same time. Hope we draft very well. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sod Blitz 34 says corner and safety are interchangeable because of number 14 and number 44. Either are amazing at NB. What's NB?
Let me see. Nickel. Is he talking about nickel?
Nickel what though?
Nickelback? Is that what he's saying?
Nickelback?
Yeah.
Either are amazing at NB.
Which
Okay, yeah,
is
that's
true.
definitely it. Okay.
Yeah.
If you get a safety, 14 can play nickel. If you get a corner, 44 can play nickel. I see where you're at. Just talking about the interchangeable parts that are Marlon and Kyle. Kobe.
If the Steelers were concerned about Pickens not running hard on all his routes as wide receiver 1, just wait until he's wide receiver 2. Also, I'm perfectly fine with DK catching 62-yard passes from old man Rodgers. It will be very interesting. I will say this. The personality dynamic for the Steelers with George Pickens, DK Metcalf, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to bring in a world management effort from their head coach. That's going to be some interesting personalities altogether. Those three right there. All with very strong opinions.
But if you were to pick a head coach that could potentially manage that, and if you were to pick a quarterback that could actually add to some of that dysfunction or drama,
Yes.
you have the head coach. I don't know if Aaron's going to diffuse that. I think
He's
Aaron's
not
going to actually add
anything.
to it. Yeah. Aaron's going to add to it for sure. Whether
That
you like
would
it or
be
not.
fun.
And let's see if Mike T allows him to continue to do the McAfee segments on Tuesdays. This is going to be a show. I think Hard Knocks is probably going to want to run it back in division next year if they can. Gold coins. Blue Sky is working great for me. Good to know. And it looks like X is back up and running, by the way, like you said.
It's good.
Now mine, it seems to be firing off.
Yeah.
Sod Blitz 34.
Lots and lots of good rookie edge guys. No one amazing who's going to fall to 27. Should do both. Get a bridge guy in free agency and draft a young guy to step in. That's what I'm saying. Another veteran at a modest deal and get yourself somebody in the draft.
Truth, trying to see the future. Aaron Rodgers is the one QB who could even get Mike Tomlin fired. A lot of people feel like he was the reason why Robert Saleh was shown the door last year in New York, even though ownership says that's not the case. Aaron, of course, himself says that's not the case. Let's shout out our patrons, Darian Covington and 100 Crystal Clear. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate you for being members of the Vault Patreon community and all the support that you give us. If you guys are interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Let's see where Morgan Moses is going.
Did he just get signed?
Wow. He's going to New England. I didn't know he was still making this kind of money at this age.
Hold on. New England was targeting Stanley. He gets gobbled up by the Ravens or retained by the Ravens. So they switch their sights to Morgan Moses. Morgan, love that man, family man, great guy. But in terms of play, it's Ronnie and then it's Morgan. How much money did he get?
Wow. So again, market standard for how things have gone here in recent days. There's nothing about this that's jaw-dropping. It's just Morgan is 34 and he's making this money that I'm about to tell you. I mean, I thought after Baltimore he was going to kind of go on short-term deals for the rest of the way. He just got a 3-year deal, $24 million, worth up to $28.5 million at 34.
Oh, $24 million total.
Yeah, sorry, not on an annual basis.
Okay.
But Morgan's still making good money at 34.
Okay, you said 24 for 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, $8 million per year.
Right, and so that's why
for a tackle, that's not a lot.
That's what I'm saying. To be clear, though, but especially given where what Ronnie would have gotten from New England, what Ronnie would have gotten from Kansas City, so on and so forth. I'm just saying Morgan is still hanging around, proven to be durable, and at 34, just got himself a nice 3-year deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty, yeah. I'm happy for him, but that's not a lot of money for the tackle position.
No. And again, not saying that whatsoever. I just didn't think he'd still be around, to be honest with you. After I know he went to the Jets for a couple of years. He was banged up at the end of last year, and clearly New England,
yeah,
New England did not prioritize him, right? This was a fallback option.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Morgan Moses is going to go work for the Patriots.
Where are the Patriots in the draft? They got to be somewhat towards the top, right?
They're high.
Yeah.
They're high.
They could get a tackle in there.
Could.
Yeah. By the way,
yeah.
just bringing this picture back up on Gus Bus, it's funny because he's the bus, right? And we've always thought of him as like the bigger back and bruising back, and he does run that way. But we've been spoiled with Derrick Henry that it's like, oh, now look at Gus. He looks small compared to Derrick. I've just become so accustomed to the king that it's like Gus Bus. I mean, he's a big, strong dude, but woof. Derrick Henry just reminds me how much of a unicorn Derrick Henry is.
Yeah, there's a new definition of bus.
Yeah.
It's called king.
Yeah. He's the king bus.
Spoiled. That's what it is. You become spoiled looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What should we do here? Let's just give everyone a reminder of how you sign up for our channel memberships. Because we have 46 strong now since we rolled out last week's new channel membership option for those of you who are interested in getting more involved and cashing in on the perks that we have available to you. All you got to do is press this button right here. Join.
Wait, hold on. We are seeing, we had another misfire here with the StreamYard. We're not seeing your screen.
What is going on here?
Seriously, it brought back up slides. Let me take that away. There it is.
So strange.
It is strange.
Anyway, today's been a work in progress for those of you who were tuning in via X. The stream probably wasn't even fired off for you the first 30 minutes. But we're glad to have you now. And we're glad to have this new feature for our subscribers. You can join the channel, get access to our membership perks, and you see the different tiers that we have available to you. By the way, last week we also unveiled our decision to officially nickname you, our audience. We went with Voltrons. And for $4.99 a month, you can sign up to receive loyalty badges next to your name in the comment section and the live chat. You've got custom emojis that you can use in the comments and the live chat. You see 4 of them right here that Sarah worked on last week.
You know, I had to give you love eyes, right?
Of course, you got to
perfect.
Customize my lover boy self. Members only live chats will be coming in the near future. Members only polls where we will call on you guys to help us make decisions, get your opinions on various things. The Voltron Plus member is, tier, gives you member shout outs on a monthly basis. You've got photos and status updates, priority reply to comments, and then, of course, the Super Voltron, everything that we just mentioned. On top of that, we'll hit you up on social media. We'll follow you on social media. So, yeah, cool new thing that you guys asked us to take a look at. We had a couple meetings on it and decided to roll it out last week.
There we go. So where are you? So you're in Orlando right now. So where in the world is Bobby Trossett? You've moved from St. Pete to Orlando over the weekend. How's Orlando treating you?
Yeah, I just got here last night. So it's
okay.
been, and then between daylight savings, getting up early for the gym and all the family time that I had over the weekend, it's just been like, you got to wake your butt up, get back involved in the free agency frenzy. But yeah, the Florida tour is going well. I'm enjoying it down here for the month of March. Did a remote week, like you said, in St. Pete with my cousin last week. And he invited me back this weekend, actually. We met some people. We're going to be going out in the boat. But yeah, I'll be working from Orlando here over the course of the next few days. And I've heard from some of our subscribers, actually. They're inviting me out to do things.
I was just going to say, Sea King is doing that right now. He says, I'm about an hour from Orlando. Let's go get a beer.
Hey, there we go.
That's what he says.
Sea King. hit me up, man.
But there's a
Kaylee.
ton of Ravens fans down in Florida due to Lamar and several of the Florida players that are with him.
Yeah, newly formed Ravens fans within the last 7 years, probably, for sure. Kayfree Profin, Kayfree, Rogers, DK, and Pickens, a.k.a. the Dream Girls. Already coining that trio, assuming that that's actually happening in Pittsburgh. Alan says he's in Orlando. What's up, Alan?
You know what I'm
Over
learning?
by Lake Holden. I'm actually out. I'm in the suburbs with my uncle.
You mentioned daylight savings, and I don't know if it somehow hit the aggregator is sending it to me, but over the weekend there were so many strong opinions on whether we keep daylight savings or if we just stick with standard time. Do you have a strong opinion?
I missed all of this, first of all. I know it's been an ongoing conversation for a while that I'm sure was brought back up with Sunday looming. Do you think that it would cure seasonal depression?
Cure it? No,
For
I still don't think. No.
For Northeast people, or yeah, it's never going to cure it. But do you think it would improve mass population seasonal depression?
It could probably improve because you're basically going to have more light at the end of the evening, right? When they do the daylight savings, you're getting lighter in the morning. Now, it also depends a lot on like where you live within your time zone. So when I was in Baltimore, it was already like here in Ohio, we're closer to the edge of the East Coast Eastern Standard Time. And so my kids are walking to school in the dark, or they're walking to the school bus in the dark. And so I know part of it is like, well, we want our kids to not walk in the dark to the school bus. And then when they get off, it's early enough that they're walking in the daytime too. So there's that part of it. But you would have more light instead of it being dark at like, what is it? Is it 5 o'clock it gets dark if you're closer to the East Coast?
Yeah.
And now maybe it's 6 o'clock instead. But my thing is I just take, I've found out vitamin D is massive for me in the winter. I take vitamin D vitamin pills, and I've been doing that for, it's probably gonna be like, I started doing it when my second son was born. So it's been like 13 years, and it's a massive difference for me. So anybody that like dreads the winter, I highly recommend looking into or talk to your doctor or whatever. Vitamin D has been a massive, massive change for me.
Well, you know what's funny, Sarah, is just, I was going to say, shout out Rave Kingdom for becoming a new channel member. We're closing in on 50 so far, 50. So thank you guys and welcome, Rave. We know you are a avid super chat donor, especially for your love for Ben Cleveland.
Cleveland, yes.
What's funny about Florida, been here, like I said, I've been here for 8 days now, and just catching up with cousins and family, it doesn't really it doesn't resonate with them as much as it does in the Northeast.
Oh, for sure.
Because why would it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's getting dark here at similar times,
but it's warm. You can be outside.
Warm year round. It's like, yeah, you can be out. Yeah. So the amount of is it vitamin? What'd you say? D
vitamin
or C?
D. Vitamin D.
The amount of vitamin D that you're getting all year round, as it is here, whether it's on the weekends or after work or whatever, it just doesn't hit. Like I'm like celebrating it this past weekend in Stewart with all my family, and they're like, "Oh, that's this weekend? Yeah, that's this weekend. Let's go."
For sure.
By the way, our buddy Thor, Iceland's finest, claims that there is no such thing as seasonal depression because he lives in a country that has 23 hours of darkness in winter and 23-hour brightness in summer. So maybe from an Icelandic perspective.
Oh yeah. Oh, when I was in Iceland, I mean, it's true. Like you have to draw the curtains. I mean, there's no sundown. There was none. Yeah. It was light all day.
Yeah.
All day.
Not that anybody's been asking. I'll leave you with this though.
Let's just do a quick wait, is it a dating update?
Yes, but let's do a quick.
People were asking. I've seen it in the chat.
Well, you already know you guys know I've been dating. I'm in Florida.
It's part of the reason why you're down there.
This is my 10th. I'm just doing a refresh for us to make sure that we're all set. Yeah, we're good.
In terms of news?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking.
So just Cam's like, stop mentioning you're dating, bro. You're gonna continue to jinx yourself. And Cam, you're probably right.
Who's
this? We've come this far. No, Cameron Walker's like, don't do it anymore. He's looking out for me. I think he's like, please, dude, please.
I don't think it's jinxing you.
Who knows?
You want to know? You want to know why you haven't? You want to know why you're not married? You just haven't found the right person yet. It's got nothing to do with jinxes.
Thank you.
Sorry, Cameron.
Well, no, he's probably just like for your own sake. Like, he's just, who knows? Cameron.
Yeah, but I think it's like therapeutic for you, right? Like, I think you like it.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You read my mind. I'm trying to look out for you. I thought that was the case. Yeah. Quick little update. Last week in St. Pete, I think I've never been around a more vibrant social scene and dating scene.
Wait, was this in St. Pete?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, you're totally moving there.
I think I can honestly say that while I never spent considerable time there on like a day-to-day basis, it was just like popping in and out for weekends to visit my cousin. This was an opportunity for me to do a full remote week. Connor was traveling for work. I was in the house. I had Tilly, and I joined through ClassPass. I have this membership called ClassPass, which allows you to essentially do fitness while you travel. And I was going to F45. I was going to Pilates. I was going to metabolic type classes like HIIT, and I met so many people in such a short time period that I was like, this is interesting. Not only am I meeting people organically, but I'm also meeting people through the apps.
I like that. Organically.
Well, because you never hear anything about that from me, because it's like, unfortunately I've maxed out. I've maxed out in Baltimore, I think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, nothing really to report on in terms of like specific women, but it was fun. It definitely piqued my interest for sure.
Rejuvenating.
Yeah, it was good, and it was productive though. Like, you and I had a good week, and I was meeting people, but I didn't feel like I was like cutting back anywhere. We were getting meetings done. We were productive. But I was also like able to kind of see what life would look like there if I were to do it. So, but one question remains, and that is, can a Northeast boy, and I'm serious about this, I'm not just trying to be goofy or whatever, would a Northeast native be able to survive Floridian summers? And I have no idea the answer to that. Would I miss seasons? Would I be totally sick and tired of summers after a while? I don't know. So the Floridians, Florida natives, chime in. Would love to hear from you.
I would be able to adjust. I love the sun.
Yeah. By the way, people think that I've been passing gas the entire time. It's the chair. Listen.
Oh.
It's the freaking chair.
I hadn't even heard it.
Gotta put some WD-40 on that sucker. All right.
By the way, during the summers, you could always go up and visit mom in New York. Like, you're good. Go back to Baltimore. Go visit. Like, you're good.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Did you have a good weekend over there?
Traveling a lot during the summer anyway, right? You're always on the go.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know me, I love a good upstate New York summer.
Yeah. No, I had a good weekend. It was one of those weekends where we're between sports seasons. So basketball is over and soccer hasn't started. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can get a ton of stuff done. So I actually spent way too much time on making different types of graphics and invitations, because 2 of my kids are going to be in the production of Annie at the middle school. But for Aiden, it's going to be his last one in the middle school. So I'll send it to you, Bobby.
Nice.
I put together this beautiful. I bought some ad space in the program to kind of give him a thank you for entertaining us for all these years. And so I found a photo from the last 4 years from each show that he's been in. And it took me forever to track it down. So anyway, I did that. And then I was like, well, if I do one for him, I have to do one for my daughter who's in it. So I did one for her. And then, as you know, Ella's getting baptized pretty soon. And I took her out and took a bunch of pictures and have made it into an invitation for her baptism next month. And so that's mostly what I was spending my time on, is doing all these different things to kind of commemorate my kids and their big events coming up. So
productive. In other words, productive.
Yeah. Very productive. Yeah.
And just in case people aren't keeping track, we are under a month till the inaugural Vault Summit takes place.
That's right.
In Columbus, Ohio. And if you're just tuning in or just catching up on this and wondering what the heck we're talking about, No, it is not a public event for you to come hang with us. Maybe one day. This
That
is
would be
an
in Florida. I mean, Baltimore.
right? For
Yeah.
sure. No, this is me and Sarah getting together, meeting her entire family. The
Great.
Ellisons being kind enough to host me for a weekend. We're gonna do. It's probably, you know what? It's gonna be business. It's gonna be social. There'll be free time sprinkled in. It'll be a little bit of everything. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna get a lot of big picture stuff. Get done for the business, and it'll be my first time in Columbus too. On top of that, so
That'd be awesome.
looking forward to it.
All right.
All right,
I
partner.
was looking for news there. The Lions are signing cornerback DJ Reed.
Yeah, I saw that, and in other words, a relatively slow start here.
Yeah.
To NFL free agency, which is not
well,
a surprise for the Ravens.
It was a big start yesterday before
Yes.
the tampering window even opened. Yesterday
Yes.
was where all the news came in, but then all of a sudden the window opens and things got quiet.
Right. A lot of this happened over the weekend. Yep.
But the question is what's the Ravens' next move? They've got to. I don't know how they're going to structure Ronnie's money on the cap, but they had between 10 and 12 million, if I remember. So Ronnie, I don't know how much they're going to put on the cap this year, but they're going to have to be cap compliant on Wednesday. So I would like to see if there's any news going on with restructures or extensions or cuts, any of those types of things, because they can't have much after this Ronnie deal. I mean, they might be over or maybe 1 or 2 million under. So moves are going to have to be made.
But the biggest move that they needed to make got done, and that was
absolutely
as
huge.
much as it was a blockbuster type of weekend across the NFL. The Ravens got done what they needed to get done, and that was maintaining a good relationship with their franchise left tackle. He's going to be here for the foreseeable future, which means Lamar will be protected, will continue to be protected. And I think, as you tweeted out over the weekend, their bookend tackles are set for the foreseeable future, and that's a big deal. And if there has to be, yeah, right. And if there has to be a little bit of a carousel and experiment as they did last year at guard, so be it. We know the center is fortified with Linderbaum, and we know the left and right hand side at tackles certainly are as well. Josina confirming what I think we already know is that Najee Harris will not be going back to Pittsburgh, so he'll be on the open market at the running back position, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more to talk about coming up tomorrow when we're back in action. It is noon Eastern all week long, guys. Channel memberships are now available to you. We would love for you to get involved and support the channel and cash in on those perks. Like the video on your way out. Special thank you to Manta Sleep for the support, sponsoring this episode. And partner, appreciate you. It's going to be a fun week, so we'll catch up with you guys on Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern, if not before. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. We'll talk soon.